When you stop contacting a woman, one of the first things she's likely to do is test the waters indirectly. At first, she won't want to admit to herself or to you that your silence is getting her attention. Pride and ego often stand in the way of her taking an obvious, straightforward approach. So instead of calling you up or sending a long message, she'll take a softer, more cautious route. You might notice she suddenly likes a photo you posted 2 weeks ago, or she might comment on something in your story that has nothing to do with the actual post, just as an excuse to engage. These aren't accidents, they're calculated little nudges to see where your mind is and whether you'll bite. This is human nature. When someone who was once consistently available suddenly isn't, it creates a gap. And that gap naturally triggers curiosity. But here's the important thing, she doesn't want to risk too much too soon. If she reaches out directly and you ignore her, that's a clear rejection. That stings. But if she just leaves a breadcrumb, like a short message, or even asks a mutual friend how you're doing, she can gauge your reaction without putting herself fully on the line. Sometimes these indirect moves aren't even through direct communication with you. She might pop up in places you're likely to be, almost like she just happened to be there. She might tag mutual friends in something she knows you'll see, or she could post something that feels like it's aimed at you, maybe an old memory, a subtle quote, or a picture from a place you went together. None of these are outright invitations to reconnect, but they are signals designed to test whether you're still paying attention. The real question is, why does she do this instead of just coming out and saying what's on her mind? It's because the silence you've created shifts the dynamic. You've taken away her certainty that you're always going to respond, and that forces her into unfamiliar territory. She doesn't know if you've moved on, if you're upset, or if you've simply decided she's not worth the effort anymore. And uncertainty is uncomfortable. These small indirect actions are her way of trying to reduce that discomfort without exposing herself completely. If you respond too quickly or too eagerly to these little tests, you undo the effect of your silence. You confirm that you're still readily available and the intrigue fades. But if you hold your ground and remain calm, it can intensify her curiosity. She starts to wonder if you've really detached, and that thought alone can make her push harder for your attention. It's also worth noting that not every woman will test the waters in the same way. Some will be subtle to the point where only the most observant would notice, while others will be more obvious. Sending you a casual, hey, saw this and thought of you message just to open the door a crack. The underlying motive is the same. She wants to know if she still has access to you without having to make a vulnerable admission. By understanding this behavior, you take back control of your own reaction. You're not blindsided or manipulated into responding just because she left a breadcrumb. You can choose whether to follow the trail or keep walking your own path. When you stop contacting her, those indirect little moves are her way of asking a question without actually asking, and your answer is in how you handle them. When your silence sets in and she's no longer hearing from you, something interesting begins to happen in her mind. She starts replaying the past. At first, she might try to brush it off, convincing herself that she doesn't care, that she's better off. But over time, without new conversations or moments with you to focus on, her mind naturally drifts back to what once was. Memory is a tricky thing. It doesn't just bring up the bad parts, it often amplifies the good. And when there's a void, nostalgia has a way of filling it. She'll start thinking about the times you made her laugh, the small ways you supported her, the moments you showed up for her when no one else did. These memories aren't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's the everyday things that leave the deepest mark. The way you looked at her, the conversations late at night, the feeling of safety and comfort she had when she was with you. Your absence gives those moments more weight because now they're not being replaced with new ones. This mental replay can be both confusing and emotional for her. When she was talking to you regularly, she might have taken certain things for granted. Maybe she thought you'd always be there, so she didn't notice the value of your presence. But now, with you gone, the contrast is sharp. It's in this silence that she starts to realize how much those moments meant. And even if she tries to focus on the negative reasons things went wrong, the mind has a funny way of softening those edges over time, especially when the good memories are tied to emotions she still feels deep down. The more she reflects, the more she starts to question her own choices. She might ask herself, did I push him away too soon? Was I too hard on him? Did I underestimate what we had? These questions don't always lead her to reach out immediately, but they plant seeds. And once those seeds are there, they can grow into a genuine sense of longing. It's important to understand that you're not actively doing anything to make this happen. You're not sending her reminders. You're not posting things to get her attention. You've simply stepped back. And in that space, she's left alone with her thoughts. That's when her own mind becomes the biggest influence in how she feels about you. Sometimes she might even catch herself defending you in her own head against the stories she may have told herself after things ended. If she painted you as the one at fault to justify moving on, her own memories can start to contradict that narrative. This internal conflict is powerful because it's not you telling her she's wrong, it's her realizing it on her own. This stage can last a while. She may not act on it right away, but every time she recalls a moment that made her smile or feel cared for, it chips away at the emotional distance between you. And the longer your silence holds, the more vivid those memories can become. It's almost as if the lack of your presence makes your past presence more intense in her mind. When you stop contacting her, you're not erasing yourself. You're allowing the best parts of you to echo in her thoughts. And sometimes those echoes are louder than anything you could say now. When you step back and stop contacting her, one of the most powerful shifts that happens is in the way she perceives you. She begins to question her assumptions. Before, she may have built an entire story in her mind about you always being there, always picking up the phone, always ready to engage, no matter how she acted. That story gave her a certain level of security, even if she didn't consciously appreciate it. It allowed her to feel in control of the dynamic, knowing that she could predict your behavior. But when you go silent, that certainty shatters and it forces her to reconsider everything she thought she knew about you. At first, she might dismiss it as you being busy or distracted, but as time passes and there's still no contact from your side, the realization begins to sink in. Maybe you're not waiting around anymore. Maybe you've moved on. Maybe you've decided you're no longer interested. And that uncertainty is what gets under her skin. When people can predict your behavior, they feel safe, not necessarily safe in a loving way, but safe in knowing where they stand. When you remove that predictability, you become a puzzle, and puzzles are compelling. This questioning phase can cause her to reflect not just on your absence, but on her own actions and attitudes towards you. She may start wondering if she pushed too hard, pulled away too often, or took your presence for granted. She might replay certain moments and think, was I too harsh? Did I overreact? Did I misread his intentions? That self questioning isn't about guilt alone, it's about the mental shift from feeling secure in her position to realizing she might have miscalculated. It's important to understand that this isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's simply a natural result of you reclaiming your energy and attention. People value what they feel they might lose, and when you were always available, there was no reason for her to truly question your place in her life. Your silence forces her to face the reality that she may no longer have the same access to you she once did, and that can stir feelings she didn't expect. Another thing to consider is that when she questions her assumptions, it's not just about you, it's about her own identity within the relationship dynamic. If she's used to feeling desired, sought after, or in control, your lack of pursuit challenges that self image. She starts to wonder if she's lost her touch, if she's no longer as important to you as she once was, or if someone else has taken her place. These thoughts, whether she admits them or not, can create a powerful internal tension that draws her focus back to you. During this stage, she may test you in subtle ways to try and get clarity without outright asking for it. She might drop hints, send small messages, or post things aimed at catching your attention, not just to reconnect, but to see if she was wrong about your availability. If you respond too quickly, you confirm her old assumptions. If you hold your ground, you deepen the mystery. By holding back and letting her sit with the uncertainty, you give her the space to dismantle the idea that she can always predict and control your responses. That shift alone can make her see you in an entirely new light. When you stop contacting her, you're not just creating distance, you're challenging the story she's told herself about you. And in that space of doubt, curiosity and desire can grow stronger than ever. When a woman feels your absence and notices that you're no longer reaching out, there's a good chance she won't just sit quietly with that feeling. Instead, she might try to provoke a response from you. This isn't always intentional or malicious. Often, it's a mix of curiosity, pride, and the need to confirm whether she still has an emotional impact on you. She wants to see if she can pull you back in without directly asking for your attention. And the way she goes about it can vary from subtle to bold. You might notice she starts posting more frequently on social media, sharing pictures that highlight her attractiveness or hint at a fun, exciting life. Some of these posts might seem coincidental, but if you look closer, you'll see they often carry an undertone designed to make you notice. Maybe a certain song lyric, a location you both used to go to, or a photo with someone she knows will catch your attention. It's her way of asking without words, "Are you still watching?" Other times, the provocation can be more direct. She might send a casual message that appears innocent on the surface. "Hey, how have you been?" Or, "This reminded me of you," but it's really a way of testing if you'll take the bait and re engage. In some cases, she might even try to stir jealousy by mentioning other men or hinting at her dating life. The goal isn't necessarily to replace you, it's to see if you'll react and show that you still care. When you've been consistent in your silence, these tactics can become more pronounced. It's almost like she's throwing pebbles at your window, waiting to see if you'll open it. The key thing to understand here is that these attempts to provoke you are actually a sign that your absence is being felt. If she didn't care at all, she wouldn't bother trying to get a reaction. But because she does care, whether it's about your attention, your validation, or your presence in her life, she puts in this effort to pull you back in. The real test is how you respond to these provocations. If you react emotionally or impulsively, she regains the control and predictability she had before. She learns that even if you go silent for a while, she can always pull you back with the right trigger. But if you maintain your composure and stick to your boundaries, you send a powerful message. You're no longer playing by her script. This creates a sense of unpredictability, and unpredictability fuels intrigue. Sometimes her provocations might even turn into overcompensation. She could suddenly become overly friendly, excessively complimenting you, or making herself more available just to regain a sense of connection. Other times, she might swing the other way and act colder than usual, hoping to make you break the silence out of confusion. Both are just different strategies aimed at the same goal, getting you to engage first. It's worth remembering that when she's trying to provoke you, she's revealing more about her state of mind than yours. It shows that the silence is working, that your absence is shifting the dynamic, and that she's feeling compelled to do something about it. When you stop contacting her and she starts trying to provoke a response, it's a sign you've moved from chasing to being chased. And that's when the power of your silence becomes undeniable. When you stop contacting a woman, something subtle but incredibly powerful begins to happen. She starts to feel the pull of the unknown. You go from being a constant presence in her life to becoming a mystery, and that shift alone changes how she thinks about you. As long as you were always available, she could predict you. She knew when you'd call, how you'd respond, and that you'd always be there if she reached out. But the moment you remove that certainty, her mind starts filling in the blanks. Humans are naturally drawn to what they can't fully understand or control. It's part of our psychology. The less information we have, the more we obsess over it. When you go silent, she doesn't know what you're doing, who you're with, or how you're feeling about her. That gap in knowledge creates curiosity, and curiosity can be magnetic. She might wonder, is he moving on? Has he met someone else? Is he really over me? The fact that she doesn't have clear answers makes her more likely to think about you, not less. This pull of the unknown is powerful because it forces her to imagine. And in those moments of imagination, she's more likely to remember the best parts of you rather than the worst. If she's used to you chasing her, she might have taken your attention for granted. But now, with you out of sight, your value increases in her mind. She starts to think about the unique energy you brought into her life, the way you made her feel, and the void that's there now that you're not around. The unknown also introduces a sense of unpredictability into the dynamic, and unpredictability is often mistaken for excitement. When she knew exactly how you'd behave, there was no thrill, no anticipation. But now she doesn't know if or when you'll reappear, what you'll say, or how you'll act. That uncertainty can create a sense of longing that she didn't feel when you were readily available. It's important to understand that this isn't about being manipulative. It's about living your life and allowing space for her to wonder about you without constantly feeding her updates. You're not trying to make her jealous for the sake of ego. You're showing her through your absence that you have your own world, your own priorities, and your own sense of purpose outside of her. That independence is attractive because it signals strength and self respect. She might respond to this pull in different ways. She could try to re enter your life subtly, reaching out under the guise of casual conversation. She might even test the waters by sending a friend to check in on you, or by leaving breadcrumbs for you to find a comment on your social media, memory shared publicly, or a song posted that you both loved. All of these are her ways of trying to bridge the gap the unknown has created. The more she feels that pull, the more she realizes that you're no longer in the palm of her hand. And that realization alone can shift her feelings from comfort to intrigue, from taking you for granted to actively wanting to reestablish the connection. When you stop contacting her and step into the unknown, you give her the gift of curiosity. And in relationships, curiosity is often the spark that reignites desire. When you stop contacting a woman, the silence eventually forces a moment of truth. At first, you might try to brush it off, thinking it's temporary or that you'll come back like you always have. But as time passes, she's faced with a choice. Either she comes closer to bridge the gap you've created, or she lets the distance grow and walks away. And this decision is more revealing than anything she could ever say to you directly. The reason this choice becomes so important is because your silence removes the middle ground. When you were reaching out regularly, she could keep you in a safe, comfortable spot, close enough to feel your attention, but far enough to keep you on her terms. You were there when she needed validation, reassurance, or someone to lean on. But without your messages, calls, or effort, she can't keep you in that holding pattern anymore. She has to decide whether you're worth pursuing or whether she's willing to let you fade away. This is where many men make the mistake of breaking the silence too soon, robbing themselves of this moment of clarity. If you step back in before she's made a choice, you give her the luxury of avoiding that decision altogether. But when you hold the line, you get to see her true intentions. Does she miss you enough to take action, or were you simply a convenient option when she was bored or lonely? If she chooses to come closer, you'll notice the change. Her messages will have more effort behind them. She won't just send a one word, hey, she'll try to start a conversation. She might ask to see you, bring up shared memories, or find excuses to be where you are. That's not by accident. It's her way of showing she doesn't want to lose the connection entirely. On the other hand, if she drifts away, that's valuable information too. It means she wasn't invested enough to close the gap herself. As much as that might sting at first, it saves you from pouring your time, energy, and heart into someone who didn't value you the same way you valued her. And knowing this truth allows you to redirect your focus toward people who will meet you halfway without hesitation. The beauty of this dynamic is that you're no longer operating from a place of desperation or chasing. You've shifted into a position of clarity and self respect. Instead of being pulled into her emotional patterns, you've created space that demands a clear answer, not through words, but through actions. Of course, not every woman will make her choice quickly. Some will test the waters for a while, trying little tactics to see if you'll break first. But eventually, the silence becomes too loud to ignore. She'll either step forward to end it, or she will step back and accept the distance. Either way, you get your answer without having to beg, plead, or compromise your dignity. When you stop contacting her, you force a decision that reveals her true priorities, and the answer you get will tell you exactly where you stand